The multi-roll sheet metal radius handbrake is available in a 60-inch box and pan brake model BP60 or 122-inch straight brake model SB122. Both brakes come with a simple manual and a pattern page that you cut out and make a pattern out of thin sheet metal for your continued use. Here are the 6 basic steps on how to use this amazing machine with no power or moving parts. Happy bending. Multi-roll sheet metal radius handbrake should fit in your existing handbrake. Tap the angle base into your brake. Put your dies. In this step, we're going to use the L shim inside the T slot. This is used for doing a single flange bend or a U-shaped bend. When you're doing the single flange bend, the single flange goes into the multi-roll slot with the angle, and it doesn't clamp and hold material like a handbrake, but it twists just enough to put a little pressure to keep it from slipping out on the ends when you're doing a long panel. Not necessary to use this method on short panels, as you could pull from the slot on the opposite side that's facing you by simply turning the die around. In this step, we're still using the angle shim inside the T slot. When you do your U-shaped bend, you have to load this piece of material in from the ends rather than push it in from the face of the die. This material won't fall out when forming, and you'll have to unload it as well by pulling it out from the ends. Now you have a U-shaped flange. Remove the L shim from the T slot and install the J die for an outside radius bend. The J die accepts 3/8 minimum and 5/8 maximum bend for this step. Simply slide the material in from the end and pull your radius as needed. Slide it back out of the end to remove it from the die. In this step, we're going to use the J die again to do a radius bend with no flange on it. Stick the material right in the J die, and you pull it around just like all the other parts. The edge of the material is held in on the edge of the die. Push it around to the degree that you want. If it's not enough, push some more again and again, then you take it out until you're happy with it. We could do this same bend as well, a 1/2 inch shorter, by taking the L shim that we used in the T slot earlier and sliding it in the loop of the J die. This 1/8 of an inch shim creates just a tighter space for the material to sit in when you're forming it over the die, and just that 1/8 inch movement of placement of the material creates a flange that's about a 1/2 inch shorter than the first one we did. So you have these 2 adjustments here depending on what kind of part you're going to make. In this step, we're going to remove the L shim from the T slot to do our Z-shaped bend on our next part. Got our piece pre-bent. We slide this in the T slot from the end. And once we get it in place, pull it around till you get the degree that you want. If you don't pull it enough, you let the release of pressure up on it, slide it back out, check the angle. If it's not enough, slide it back in, push a little more. And if you go too far, just push back the other way and then slide it again out the end to remove it from the die. And you have your Z-shaped flange. One side, U-shape on the other. In this step, we have cut the J die in half. Separate the J dies and install the L shim in the loop of the J die. Now we can bend a long flange on an outside radius bend. You are limited to 040 aluminum and 3 feet long for this bend on the 5-foot model. Simply install the material between the J dies and slide the L shim over to lock it in place. Then pull your radius as needed. Reverse steps to remove metal from the die. When you're forming materials without using the L or the J die, simply take the dies off, turn them around, and now you can use these other two larger openings for hem-edged material. Just imagine the products you can build with the multiple choice of flanges for any project you could dream of. Here at Roll Fab Inc., we are going to fabricate a cargo box on a 3-wheel motorcycle using 063 aluminum, all hand formed using the multi-roll sheet metal radius handbrake. We've taken our mock-up pattern and cut our 2 side panels out for starters. Next we lay out our patterns and get them notched and ready to go to the brake for our first bend. The multi-roll die base we clamp into any existing handbrake. There's the arm to hold the angle secure. Then load the multi-roll dies that you're going to need for your various steps of building the box. After pre-bending your flanges, insert the flange into the multi-roll single slot. Hold it in at the bottom, pull around by hand. Insert the single flange into the multi-roll single slot. Tension on it, hold it around the back side. Pull it around. Side it for 90 degrees. If it's not enough, push a little more. If it's too much, pull back. Lift up, push it out of the die, and there's your radius. Lay your panels face to face and check each side for lineup for a better fit. After fabricating the sides, set them up on the bike to mock up your fenders and placement of the box. After setting up our fenders with the right clearances on the tire, we check our panel is going to be 23 inches overall to finish the width of this box. Finish our last bend on our front and rear panel. After clamping your 4 sides, tap all the corners level and keep it square when tacking it together. Then get all dimensions for your floor. In this step we're going to figure the size of our lid. Take a 12-inch strip of metal, do test bends. You end up with 9 3/8. Set that on the box. Measure your difference this way. You're going to add 10 and 13 this way. You're going to hook it on this side over here. You're going to add 16 on this side. You do your first sample piece. Just as a test before you cut your large piece, you're going to end up with the proper stretch out for your front to back. In this step we trace out our pattern onto our piece, cut out the 4 corners, and we're ready to go to the brake. We put a 7/16 hem edge on all 4 sides and a 1/2 inch 90-degree bend on all 4 sides. Those are the bends that we need before we go into the multi-roll die. Die selection for bending this part. We need 22 inches of die, which we have a 15, a 4, and a 3. And then when we do those 2 sides, we can move the 4 and 3 over here next to the 10 for our 2 17-inch bends. Got our 17-inch die set up. We're going to use the wider opening on the bottom to accept the hem edge that we've preformed on our handbrake. Simply slip it into the multi-roll die. Pull it around by hand, keeping your hands tight to the bending surface. Pull it to your 90 degrees. If it's not enough, a little more. If it's too much, pull back. Slip it out of the brake. Check it for your degree. Move on to the next bend. This is the 17. Hard like that. Check at the angle. If it's too much, pull back. Now we're going to take off the 10 and the 15 over. Do the other 2 bends. All pulled by hand. Pull the corners open. Past. Pull back. Slide it out. Around. Same thing. too much, come back in and pull back. One's ready to be dollied. After forming our lid, we're going to bring it in here and set it on our box and check it out for size to see how the edges line up. Tuck them in or out as needed before you start your tacking. Before dollying the radius corners, tack the bottom flanges first. When working your corner, find a suitable dolly to fit the part. This old wrench works great in this situation. After working the corner on a dolly, tack and tap the bottom to shape your corner. After tacking the corners at the bottom, fit the lid to the box and adjust as needed. After tacking the lid, recheck the fit on the box. Once you have a good fit, weld the corners outside, then inside for strength. When you grind off the outside, you'll need this inside welded strength so the weld won't crack. Now install the hinges and latches and prep for paint. This box can be made in a day by a skilled craftsman. Please visit our website for more information.